I didn't know how to title the post. I apologize. My son is 11 months old and 97th percentile for height. He is a big-ass baby, currently 36 and tall, or about the size of your average 2, 5'0", and in 3T clothing. However, despite him being so big, he is still just a baby, and most of his nutrition IA still from breast milk. For the 4th, we had a big family cookout, and my brother invited his girlfriend. I live out of state, and I didn't want my flights to be too close together, so I'm staying for a bit longer. My brother and his girlfriend are doing the same thing. My family is aware that my son is a baby, obviously, but my brother's girlfriend was not, and was initially very shocked when she saw him misbehaving. We explained that he's still a baby, so he's still just exploring the world. She remained uncomfortable, but we mostly avoid each other. Because he's so big, feeding him is a chore. So I use an armchair as there isn't enough support elsewhere, and so there isn't much I can do about covering up. He gets sweaty under blankets and won't eat. It's been a tense couple of weeks. Last night, I think we both kind of lost it. My son needed feeding and she was in the chair. I asked her to move, which she whined about, but did get up. Everything was fine for another hour or so, until she demanded my brother pay for her to go to a hotel for the remaining nights because she can't cope with me and the baby. He asked what she meant, and she said that he's clearly big enough to be on real food, and I enjoy making her uncomfortable by feeding him in front of her. I got embarrassingly upset and told her that she should keep her mouth shut because she clearly doesn't know the first thing about parenting, and certainly doesn't know anything about me or my son. We argued the same points for a little more until my son woke from his nap and I left to collect him. She then left after telling us all loudly that she needs to protect her peace, which is honestly not a phrase I thought real people said. My brother told me I was being immature and left with her. My dad is on my side, but did tell me I should have removed myself from the situation, as I'm a grown woman and she's still a teenager. I'm 3 years older than her, so I think that's BS. My mom is neutral, but is still trying to convince my brother to come home, and ended up paying for their hotel. She thinks I could have been a lot more understanding. AITA for not telling my wife that I lost my virginity to a man. Me, M45, and my wife, F41, are in the early processes of separating. Nothing too dramatic, just the usual irreconcilable differences, namely money, social balance, and what we want to do with the rest of our lives. She is happy with the house and her work. I want to experience more of the world before I get too old. Sex isn't one of the reasons for separating, even though it has been sporadic over the last few years, putting it mildly. I've been reaching out to a lot of my old social peers for support during this time, as has she, and have reconnected with the man I lost my virginity to at 16. He was 19 at the time. We met up for a few drinks a couple of nights ago in town and had a really good evening, at the end of which we said we should hook up once the separation was moving forwards. The next day, my wife confronts me asking me why I hadn't told her that I'd lost my virginity to a man. I asked her what she was talking about, and it turns out that one of her work colleagues was in the same pub the previous night and had overheard us talking. My wife was, and still is, furious that I hadn't said anything about this for the 18 years we'd been together, and says that I've deceived her and now believes that this is the reason why I've instigated us going our separate ways. She's now telling everyone I'm a closet homosexual, and have been all of this time. AITA? Edit. For those who seem to be focusing on how people can hear other people talk at a pub, ever heard of a pub garden? It's quite easy to hear someone talking when they're outside and at the table right next to you. Edit 2. So sorry I haven't responded to comments. It was a bit overwhelming to see how many people were posting, and I was kind of waiting for the replies to die down. I didn't expect this to keep going overnight. It looks like I have a couple of things to clear up. Age of consent in the UK is 16, or at least was when I was 16. I believe it still is, but wouldn't need to know anyway. My wife and I never discussed sexual history. It may sound impossible to believe, but it's true. She was just never that interested in having that conversation, and sex wasn't ever hugely important to her as much as cuddling, etc. I've been around homophobia enough playing sports, football, I'm not using the S word, to know that saying anything about any sexual contact at all would get me ostracized from almost all of my social groups, including sections of my family. So, even though I may have deceived everyone, would it be right to have lost my whole life just because of who I was attracted to at any one point in my life? Thank you for your feedback, and I will be reading them throughout the day. I need to fry up first. AITA for refusing to give my room to my married cousin. I'm very upset as I'm writing this, so there might be errors. So, please bear with me. On a 1-week family vacation, my immediate family aren't here. My dad got me a room at the hotel. We were all staying, so I could have my own room. My cousin's 32F. I'll call her Joe. Her husband, I'll call him Bill. And their 2 kids had the room next to mine. The second day, my cousins and I wanted to go to the beach. Joe asked if she could stay in my room, BCO, as her husband and kids were disturbing her rest. I said okay and gave her my room card. We were gone for like the whole day. When we returned, Joe was still in my room. She had been watching TV. She had actually rented a movie. I was angry at this BCO as it was my dad's credit card on the billing for the room. She apologized and left. The next day, she asked to use my room again, promised not to rent a movie, and I agreed. When I returned, Bill was in my room laying on my bed. I wasn't mad, but I also didn't like it. I asked them to leave that I needed to get ready since we were all going out to eat. We're at the restaurant, eating, joking around, having a nice time, when my aunt, Joe's mom, the official adult of the family vacay, said, and I quote, "You'll be sleeping in Joe's room with the kids, so your elder sister and her husband can have some privacy." I honestly didn't think she was talking to me until my uncle snapped at me asking if I was deaf. I looked around, everyone was looking at me, waiting for my okay or yes, Mom. But I said no. The vibe of our table changed. My aunt basically ordered me to hand over my room card. Again, I said no. She then said it was wrong of me to expect adults to be sleeping in the same room with their kids when another child has a free room. I'm 22, but I'm also the youngest. Sorry, I'm 24. Again, I said no and asked her to ask someone else. At this, everyone turned on me, asking why I needed a room to myself. What was I doing by myself that would make me not want to share with kids? It was so uncomfortable, I left. The next day, we had plans to go to the theme park, but they all left without me. I called my cousins, but they won't pick up. I texted and was left on read. I called my dad about this, and he told me not to worry. He'll handle it. Dinner that night, I was called a snitch, that I had run to my dad when I was the one being disrespectful. Then my auntie asked me to leave the table or give my elder sister my room card. It was like a go-to-your-room moment. So I went to my room, called my dad again, and this time he told me to just change rooms to hold the peace. My mom and brothers said not to, that they were looking for a free babysitter. Her kids aren't unruly half the time. But I'm not here to babysit today. I was left behind again. I don't know. I'm really upset about this. But I also don't want to give in. I'm thinking to just go home, but it's quite expensive to change my ticket, so 3 days left of this.